Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Be welcomed to the 34th episode of the Just with Josh, the greatest, most unbeknownst to the rest of Canada as of now, the greatest comedy show on the East Coast. Soon to be moving to Toronto, so it'll soon be the best comedy podcast or comedy show in Ontario. And we're changing it up today. We're doing a little bit of something different, okay? Because I've been really having a lot of interesting conversations with my new friend here, and he's got some really big plans. He's kind of a big deal, and if you haven't heard about him yet either. So without further ado, on this episode of the Just with Josh, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to my friend Kaiser Maxwell. Kaiser, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kaiser Maxwell. I currently reside in the state of Texas, and I am honored to be on the show, and this is the first time I've been on a show. So thank you very much for having me, Josh. I appreciate you, and I appreciate Canada. I appreciate you, who are listening, whether you be in Canada, the United States, or any other part of the world tuning in tonight. I thank you for coming here to listen to us, and we appreciate your time.
Yes, no, thank you very much. And I'm glad you appreciate Canada. You know, it's great because, Canada, needs all the appreciation it can get, especially from our American friends, because, we're a small country, really. We got the second biggest country in the world by land mass, second to Russia. However, we only have 33 million people in this country, but your country has 330 million people, and you're right underneath us. You know what I mean?
Actually, it's just over 360 million now. Actually, I think it's closer to 367 million people last time I checked.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people.
It is an insane amount of people. And, they're talking about population collapse and whatnot. The economy's not doing so well is the word on the block, so the cool kids say.
That would be correct. The economy is doing very badly right now. It's the worst that it's been in my lifetime, as far as I know.
And how old are you?
Comparable.
Mr. Maxwell.
I'm 22 years old. I was born in 2001. And it was before 9/11. I will add that. So I was technically alive for a very short amount of time in a pre-9/11 world, but I've not really known a pre-9/11 world for the duration of my life. So,
and I was also born in 1999, so I'm only 2 years older than you because I'm 24. So we're a couple of young bucks. Like we're new on the scene. We're new on the scene.
We're the real Generation Z. Like something I wanted to actually talk about on the cast is there's a lot of people that try to define what Generation Z is, and they don't know what they're talking about. I think,
they don't.
In a lot of cases.
I agree with you on that.
The real dividing line between a millennial and a Gen Z and a Gen Alpha, or the what are they called? The digital natives, some of them call them, the next generation that's after us. What sets us apart from millennials and those other guys is millennials are old enough to remember a time before 9/11, and they're also, of course, because of that, they're old enough to remember a time before the iPhone. But what sets Gen Z apart is, yes, we are old enough to remember a time before the iPhone, but we're not old enough to remember a time before 9/11. So that is it creates a generational microcosm, is what I call it. So the real Generation Z actually begins in the year either 1996 or 1997.
Yes.
And then it ends. The cutoff point is 2004, maybe 2005-ish. Yeah. But I tend to lean more toward 2004.
And what do you call the next generation after that?
They're called Generation Alpha or digital natives.
They're Generation Alpha. They're like the fidget spinning kids.
Yes, but that's what the experts call them.
They're
They
the
call them
alphas,
Generation
the
Alpha.
Giga Chads.
I wouldn't call them that necessarily, but
Maybe
you
they
know.
are. Maybe instead of stimming,
But
like they'll start lifting weights, and then they'll just like become like super
well,
units.
what's incredibly strange though is it's difficult to get accurate statistics whenever they're talking about Generation Z because
Yeah.
they don't get the years
Well,
correct
yeah.
90% of
But
the time.
essentially, what I wanted to kind of say is like we're kind of like inheriting we're inheriting the busted economy. We're inheriting the consolidating economy. And I think that's an important word is consolidating because when everything goes to shit, when value starts to become inflated, you really got to consolidate.
Yeah,
And we're kind of going to
one thing
inherit that consolidation.
one thing I will, mention here is that it's not like we haven't seen hardships in our lifetime economically. There was the 2008 housing crisis in America. I remember that.
Yeah.
I knew lots of people that
The
lost their
subprime
homes.
mortgage housing crisis.
Yeah, that. It was really bad. There was also, of course, whenever I was a baby, I think, or just a really young child, the .com bubble burst. So that was another economic impact in the early 2000s. But
Interesting.
So
I technically experienced a pre 9/11 world for like 1 second.
Not really.
No, I did though, man. 1999. Wasn't it 2001? No, 9/11 happened.
Well, yeah, but like,
Dude, so hold up, just
like,
1 second though, because for like a whole 2 years, my mother was like, dude, they were probably like living like how they say like when the baby's in the womb, like if you like give it Mozart and stuff, it'll be smarter. Like if the baby is being congestated in a calmer environment where there's like more hope. Like I was born in a time when there was more hope. Because before 9/11, think about it. Like I had the whole world in my hands. We didn't think the terrorists were coming in Canada. It was beautiful. You should have seen it. I don't remember. Like I was 4. Like 9/11 happened, but there was a whole 2 years where I was just a baby, where my brain was growing and it was going full throttle because it knew, like, with the frontiers were open.
One thing I will mention is Canada as a country was very, very different 20 years ago. Have you ever seen the documentary? It was called Bowling for Columbine.
Oh yeah, that where they shot their own citizens or something.
Well, okay, so it was a documentary this guy did about the kids, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, that shot up their own high school, and it was in I think 1999, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was today. It was April 20th. So it was it was 24 years ago today.
Hey, 420 plays it. Get stoned and shoot up a school. Why not?
Well, what's disturbing is Eric did it because it was Hitler's birthday. Now, obviously.
So Hitler was also born in 420?
Yeah. And so that's why today, to disrespect him, because he was anti-smoking and anti-alcohol, I decided to smoke a cigar and drink some whiskey. So anyway, regardless of that, so
that's a good point, because fuck Hitler, because we're not like, there's a lot of talk nowadays, there's a lot of even some of the big kids, some of the guys, like, the people, there's a lot of folks out there that might even they're angry, they feel like, they're like, oh, white people are getting pushed around, and then they're starting to say, oh, well, we should just, Hitler maybe was right. There's a lot of that going on. My buddy, I had a buddy who was going off the deep end with the National Socialist shit.
Yeah, here's the thing. There is truth to the fact that white people are being attacked, but that's not really the end of the story. It's much more complex than that. And this goes back many, many, many years. Like this has been a problem that has been ramping up. It's just it hasn't really shown its hand in full until recently. But in essence, racial instability always serves the powers that be.
Yeah.
The people who are at the top benefit from instability of any kind, and racial
And like, what's your background?
instabilities. What's my background?
Yeah, talk a bit about your background. Like, what's your background? What's your relation to this?
Like my race or what?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm white of German descent, primarily. I also
and you call yourself Kaiser Maxwell.
Yes, I do, and that's because I'm a major kind of guy who's into history, you know.
Yeah.
And I've basically pinpointed the exact point at which the Western world was fated to either ascend or decline. Now, what happened was we went into rapid decline because the single driving force that was positive during the Industrial Revolution was actually the German Empire. So this is pre-World War I. So we're talking this is late 1800s until 1918, yes. Right? And in 1870, Prussia united all of the different
under one German Kaiser. And what was his name? Kaiser Will?
He was Kaiser Wilhelm I, if I remember correctly, who united Germany initially. Of course, he eventually died, so the throne went to Kaiser Wilhelm II. He's
an object of your interest. He's a fixation for you.
He is. He very much is. He's somebody who I admire very much, and I think that he was one of the greatest leaders that the world's ever seen.
So explain to my audience, because they're definitely going to want to know this next part, what your plan is and how relative towards this empire, and how you feel. I want you to get into,
Yeah. So let me set up the historical background, everything here. So
okay, sure, yeah.
All right, you have three men. They are all cousins, and they're all royalty, but they're in charge of three different nations.
Yes.
These three men was the King of England, the Kaiser of Germany, and the Tsar of Russia. So these
King of
three
Germany,
guys,
the King of England, the King of Germany, and the Tsar of Russia. Is that right?
Is the King of England, the Emperor of Germany, the Kaiser, and the Tsar of Russia.
Gotcha.
So, because Russia was still an empire at the time. This is before the communist revolution.
Yes.
Now, what was going on during these years before World War I was industrialization was occurring. So these countries that were originally predominantly rural, that had very agrarian-focused societies, were beginning to ramp up industrial production of goods.
So they were starting to make good shit because they had lots of new stuff because of the new world technology, the Industrial Revolution. They were picking up steam. So Russia was, Prussia was a part of that. Yeah.
Yes.
I know that because in Sidmir civilization, there's an ability where you can make the Hansa, and it's a super effective workshop, and it increases your production, your industrial production.
Yeah, stuff like that. Those games are drawing off real history. So what's going on here with this is one of the primary goods that they were making was weapons and ships and things of that sort. And so all of these countries kind of started to go into a bit of an arms race.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there were also principles, right, and ideas that all of these countries held. And that was their moralities and different things like that. And the problem is these three countries had different views of right and wrong. Yes. And they all were very powerful. They were all getting more and more weapons.
As they often do, yeah.
Yeah. And so what eventually kind of ended up happening here is now you have three world superpowers, but the people who rule them are family, and they know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, look, these people knew each other so well. When the Kaiser's daughter got married in 1913, the year before World War One,
Okay.
the King of England and the Tsar of Russia were
Okay.
there because they were family. They were invited to the
Okay,
wedding.
so
All
how does
three of
this?
them were
How
there.
does I want to speed this up to the point where you become the king of fucking England or
Hold on,
Germany?
man. We can't jump there.
I
We
want to go
cannot
right
just
to
jump
there.
You need to you need to have the
This
foundation.
is
Or else it's
taking
not gonna
too
make
long.
sense. No, you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient, man. You gotta be patient.
He wants to be the king of Germany, and he's gonna take over the whole fucking country, and you better watch out. He's gonna create a castle. It's gonna have a moat. It's gonna have slaves. There's gonna be stone mines. I'm gonna rule from the north of Canada. He's gonna rule from the south of Texas and Germany, and we're gonna have empires, motherfucker. You better hear that, Elon Musk. You have enough money. You got the resources. You got the power. You got the Jew. Get it together. If you're gonna have a colony on the moon, have a colony on the moon. We're taking over. We got our land. You know, you got to pick your areas, ladies and gentlemen, because this is how it's gonna work now. It's gonna be like medieval times. We're gonna have banner lords. There's gonna be kings of different regions. Okay. And what this man's referring to, he's telling you, he's giving you the casus belli, okay, for his cause of revolution, because he's gonna claim the banners, he's gonna reclaim the pieces, and he's gonna take his place on the throne, all right, because that's what's happening now. That's where these young guys are at. And tell them what your real plan is. Just tell them what you want. Tell them what you really want, because you got their attention. The people are listening.
Look, okay.
They want to hear what their king has to say. Tell them.
Look, okay, listen. So here's what's going on. You have three different conflicting ideologies, right? Well, they end up fighting each other, even though they're family. But the thing is, Germany had a plan.
Yes.
And part of the problem was Russia was doing things that was evil, right? The Tsar would not give people freedom. He wanted absolute control. Like, he refused to write a constitution. He did not want to be held accountable. He didn't want to be responsible. He just wanted to have all the power, right? That's wrong. I don't believe in that. That's not how I would rule.
That's how I am, too. I'm a libertarian.
So
my kingdom, that's what it's going to be like as well. Like, there's going to be a libertarian value.
The way Germany did things was they had a constitution, kind of like America. They had a parliament, kind of like Britain. Right? Like, they had like multiple different things that they took that they learned from other existing countries, and they were applying them because it worked and it was good, right? And so he tried to tell his cousin multiple times. He's like, look, if you don't start changing things up, if you don't like swap the narrative on things, people are going to hate you. They're going to overthrow your country, and you're going to lose everything. And it's going to be unstable, and a lot of people are going to die. And he told him that multiple times, and he wouldn't listen. So you know what? Like, Germany was all like, that's it. We're going to make a self-fulfilling prophecy. They took Lenin, the communist, because he was in Germany at the time. They captured him. They had him in police custody, and they're like, we're going to send this dude on a train back to Russia so he could cause trouble on purpose. And he did. He caused a communist revolution in Russia and destabilized the country.
Okay.
So the plan was, while that was happening, Germany was going to swoop in and they were going to play the hero, right?
Yeah. This is like one of those infomercials where you gotta wait to hear more. You can't just hear the fucking. Connect this to the present day.
Well, I'm gonna get there. Give me a second, okay? So here's where everything falls apart, right? That's a great plan, isn't it? You know, they could come in, save the day. There's no communists.
Is that the plan?
You know, everything was going to be peachy. That was the plan, right?
If that's the plan. Just say that's the plan.
And that was the plan at the time. But the problem
is that the plan now? Is that the plan?
Well, I'll get there, okay? Look, it didn't work. You want to know why it didn't work? Because there was this thing that happened. This dude, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, got shot by a Serbian. And so
now you got to step up.
Like Austria-Hungary, which is Germany's ally, was like, hey, can you help us kick Serbia's butt because they started this crap? And like the way he died, by the way, was super funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you want me to tell that story? Because it is pretty funny.
I want to hear about how you're going to take over, how you're going to eventually claim the throne. I want to hear about your royal ascent. I want to hear about the power. I want to hear about the Game of Thrones.
All right. Look, I'll get there then. Okay, so because of that, now Germany's fighting 2 wars at the same time, basically. No one can actually sustain something that big. So they lost, right?
Yeah.
And because they lost, the communists won in Russia. That's how you got the Soviet Union. That's how you got the communists.
Yeah, I know.
Germany's government fell apart because France and Britain forced it to, because they said, we don't want the Kaiser there anymore. Mm-hmm. So now you had the Weimar Republic,
yes,
which was a very weak government that was also very evil. And there was a lot of people who were very unhappy with it. But the liberals got in power there, which is very similar to what has happened in America now.
Okay.
And it's like history is repeating itself in America right now. So pay attention closely.
Okay.
You have all these liberals that are in power, right? So the conservatives that are now in the minority are getting scared. And they're like, what do? We have to turn this around. Like there's transgender people like mutilating themselves and stuff, and they're walking around the streets.
I know about that.
There's like all this other stuff. Like the exact same problems we're having now was the problems that the Weimar Republic was having. Mass inflation.
What, they had transgenders?
Yeah, they had transgenders for sure, dude.
What do you mean?
They were pioneering that stuff.
They didn't. They had like butcher's knives. They didn't have like the same.
No, they did.
They didn't have lasers
they had
and
surgical
X-rays.
equipment. They were removing people's breasts. They were like starting.
What year was this?
What?
What year was this?
Well, this is in the 1920s.
Oh, the 1920s was the Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, this is in the 1920s, man.
So they were just getting people up. They were doing it good. Those were the roaring 20s. So it makes sense.
But that was like that. This was in Germany. It was where this was going on and everything. And so, like, these guys come in. They're called
roaring
the
20s.
Socialists,
The roaring 20s are gonna eat up your breasts.
Listen, so like the National Socialists show up right in the middle of the 1920s.
Okay.
And they're really nationalists. Like, we love Germany. We love the German Empire. We were a great nation.
I know those guys, yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so all these old school conservatives look at those guys. It's like, oh, those guys can't be that bad. They look really conservative. They sing the national anthem all the time. They really love our country. Yes. They love Germany. They can't be that bad. And so they're like, we'll work with them because at least they'll stop the liberals, because they were gaining a lot of traction at the time, right? Okay. And so the Nazis got into power because the government was weak, and they were reacting to liberalism is what was happening.
Oh.
If World War I had been different, like if Germany had won, think about this. Okay. If they had gotten everything that they planned for, you would have no communist Russia. That would not exist because they would have failed because Germany's plan would have
had the Empire of Germany.
On top of that, you'd still have the Empire. There's no Weimar Republic. There's still the Empire. There's no room. There's no reason for Nazis to exist.
So who's the emperor at that point? Who's the emperor of fucking... If they
Kaiser
won...
Wilhelm II. Kaiser Wilhelm
So was
II
he like the general of the armies and shit?
Yeah, he was commander-in-chief of the entire military of the German Empire. Yes, that was part of his job. So, like, he basically would still be in power until he died. That's normal.
So he would have passed that on to his son, then his son would have passed it on to his son. It would have been the royal bloodline.
Normal royal succession. That's what it would have been like. You'd have no Nazis. You'd have no communists. You'd have no World War II. There'd be no Cold War. None of the horrible stuff that has been snowballing ever since World War II ended that we are now dealing with today would have happened.
Ooh,
None of it.
Very interesting, actually.
So that's why I believe the German Empire is good. So now that brings us to today. We are caught up now to today. In America, we now have transgenders. We have liberals that are in control and all this other stuff. Now, part of the reason why that's the case is because the United States government is no longer actually ruled by the people anymore. And what I mean by that is because of what the world was like post-World War II, the Cold War happened. And in the middle of the Cold War, the Central Intelligence Agency was starting to gain more and more influence inside of our own government. But John F. Kennedy didn't like that.
Yeah.
And he tried to stop them. But, you know, what was interesting, there's this thing called Operation Northwoods, which is a real thing. You can look it up. You can Google it right now. The CIA was planning to stage attacks in America and make it look like the Cubans were doing it so that they could cause a war in Cuba. And the president was like, hell no, you're not doing that. President Kennedy was like, no, that's not okay. That's wrong. That's evil. You're going to get a bunch of people killed for no reason. And so the CIA got piss baby mode about it because they were mad.
And they actually did operations. No. They did CIA Black Ops operations on well, I know that because Call of Duty Black Ops 1.
Well, they did that the year before. That was Bay of Pigs. They wanted to keep escalating. That's what Operation Northwoods was in 1962. Fast forward to 1963. What happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963? JFK goes around the corner and gets blasted, right? Well, they say that Lee Harvey Oswald did the blasting, but there's a whole bunch of witnesses that say they saw him at a cafe, and all of a sudden, before he could even testify in court, he gets blasted by Jack Ruby, right? And they say it's mob-related, but come on, I don't buy that for a second. What really happened was it was a cover-up, because what actually occurred was the CIA killed John F. Kennedy on purpose. They killed him because they were mad because John F. Kennedy was not letting them.
So you're saying the government killed John F. Kennedy? The U.S. government killed their own president?
Yes, they did, because the Central Intelligence Agency is separate from what the U.S. government was at the time, and they wanted to take over and control everything. Because they were like, if the president's not going to cooperate, we're going to get a president who will. And that was Lyndon B. Johnson, who was Kennedy's vice president. They paid him under the table to be a yes man for the CIA. Because as soon as John F. Kennedy was dead,
the Clintons and all the Democrats basically, like, I feel like...
Oh, yeah, that's true. They were out and about. Hillary Clinton, she was out and about. Nancy Pelosi, she was out and about at that time as well. They're all wrapped up in
it. So the FBI, when they steal this power from these just people like John F. Kennedy and they deliver it to people like Clinton, like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and I'll get to Clinton, man. Trust me, he is crooked as the rest. And they are all in the pocket of the Central Intelligence Agency. They are the ones who are actually pulling the strings. They rig every single major election.
Well, geez, look at how Twitter was being ran before Elon Musk got in charge.
Yeah. Look at the Twitter files, man. They were manipulating what people were allowed to see and what they were saying was fact or not, right?
Some people, I think there was somebody that said that, like, Twitter was basically like an extension, like an arm of this, like the FBI or CIA. I know they're two different. Right. I know they're two different agencies, and they have completely different. You know, they're actually at odds with each other. Some would say the CIA and FBI. They say they say they fight each other in some ways. Like if you ever played Grand Theft Auto 5, like that's one of the big.
Sometimes they do, but most of the time they actually cooperate. Look, that's what they want you to think, but they get along better than you would think. And I'll get into Clinton later.
What if the CIA is like the Dems and the FBI is like the Repubs?
That's not really how it is. The
Yeah, it's
Democrats.
definitely.
Look, listen, the
do I know?
Democrats and Republicans. I'm about to black pill you. Technically, it's not really a black pill.
I'm
I'll
ready.
explain why it's not later, but it's going to
Deliver
sound
it.
like a black pill. I'm sorry if y'all get depressed if you hear this, but look, the Republicans and Democrats, they only exist to serve the CIA's agenda. And the reason why they keep flip-flopping who gets elected every 4 years recently is because it's destabilizing the populace. Now, why would they want to destabilize the populace of their own country? You're sitting there wondering. That doesn't make sense. That sounds counterproductive. The reason they want to do that is because they want to justify putting in laws that are for the sake of quote unquote security while taking away our rights. And they also want to cause a war. They want a civil war to happen so that while everyone else is busy fighting each other, they're not going to notice the government sneaking up and killing a bunch of people. And then they're going to establish order 1984 style, like George Orwell's 1984, the book, you know?
And people will be crying for it because they'll be afraid of all the mayhem.
Yes, like people will be like, "Oh, government, please save us. Do something," right? And they will do something. And at that point, any
yeah, sure, you can. Yeah, here, you want to come inside? You're tired of living out in the woods. You're freezing to death. You're starving. Here, crawl into this concrete little encampment, this concrete building. All right, now you're in this cell. All right, here's your daily work load. Make these things, these little Tic Tacs or whatever. Here's your bread.
Right.
They'll give you a little piece of bread. They'll never let you leave.
That's right, dude. You're getting it. You're getting it now. Okay.
Except it won't be bread. It'll be fucking like your little bag of crickets. You'll get your little, instead of sunflower seeds, you know how they season sunflower seeds? It'll be like a little bag of crickets with like Parmesan. Parmesan and cheese.
You will eat the bugs. You will live in the box. You will watch the TikTok.
I'm not a complainer. You know, I know where I'm going after I die. Like, I'm going to heaven. So like if that's what it is, if I gotta like, you know, eat the Parmesan crickets in the concrete encampment box and not live, I don't know. If the woods are fun, maybe if I run into a cool group of people, I'm not like a bushcraft guy. You know, like I'm not the most well endowed skill wise that way. So, but if I meet like a nice, you know, like a tribal group of people. They're having, you know, beef jerky and they're dancing around a fire at night. I'll stay around and chill. But, you know, otherwise I'm going inside of I'm just going to have to I'm going to have to survive inside the encampment like a Jew in like one of the Holocaust encampments. That'll be nice.
You see,
like the Gulag Archipelago.
Here's what I'm going to do. Okay. So I am counting on them starting the Civil War eventually, right? So here's what my plan is. Before all of that happens, I want to get myself a neat little setup going on. Basically, I want to make a community that is protected and able to function completely independently of the United States government. No reliance upon it.
That'd
People living together in a walled, safe community, similar to medieval times, but not the same. Like, we would have technology. We'd have self-sustaining technology, though. It would be, you know, solar, wind, power kind of stuff, right? You'd have possibly even, you know...
almost like The Walking Dead, like you'd be like Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead or something.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like, you know how he's kind of like a king of his group, right?
Yeah.
But imagine that, but like more civilized and more aesthetically pleasing. So
it would be more civilized than that.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you could have that, but you're in a medieval style castle and the architecture looks super cool?
It'd be tough to recover that knowledge.
I don't want to I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. I want to live. I want to be like, I want to be living in a place that's beautiful. I don't want the people to look around them and be like, this place is beautiful.
Yes, sir.
Like, I want them to feel motivated. I want them to feel patriotic, right?
Yes.
Because what I want to build is a new nation inside of this existing one.
Yes.
Because when this existing nation falls, because it eventually will, who's going to establish order?
Yes, exactly. No, I 100%. I think a lot of people are asking those questions. Yeah. No, 100%. I'm thinking about that. I think it started off like everyone was joking about it. I think at first it was like a funny joke, but then I think a lot of people are starting to come to the conclusion like we're really going to need to have some kind of some kind of fallback plan, some kind of hedge,
Yeah, like the idea is, look, get a group of extraordinary people who are intelligent, that can do things, that can also work hard, that are willing to have children, so that you can have sustainable like population, and then also have sustainable sources of food, like through permaculture. And you can have a self-sustaining, independent community that now can eventually become its own country.
Wouldn't that be nice? Of land. That'd be nice to live. It'd be nice, And you could get away with a lot more stuff. Imagine that. You're not paying taxes to the government anymore. You just got to look after the potatoes. You just got to watch after it. You can grow a ton of weed. You probably make your own moonshine. Dude. Listen, the gist with Josh.
You can sell moonshine to other communities. Like if people went.
And I bet you technology, we'd still have some technology. Like we'd still have radio broadcasting. Like I could still do the gist with Josh. Like, people could still tune in. It'd be like Fallout. When you're playing Fallout 3 and you tune into like the Big Dog Radio or Double Dog Radio or whatever.
Galaxy News Radio hosted by Three Dog.
Yeah. Be like
I remember that. Yeah.
Just with Josh Radio. We're over here. We're talking out to you from the wasteland. We got how you doing, villagers, fucking wastelanders.
Yeah. So the idea here. You have the capability to create a sustainable community that's independent from the government, and you don't have to kill anybody to get it. Yeah. The only people you'd be having to kill is people who are trying to kill you.
The insolence.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you are justified in the eyes of God when you're defending yourself.
Yeah, when you're acting at a self-defense.
So, you're good. If it's self-defense, man, you're good. So, think about it. If more people thought like this and started doing that, everybody could kind of have their own little kingdom thing going on.
It's gonna be a painful couple of years, dude. It's gonna be a painful startup. Like right now, you're sitting on your porch, you're sipping on your whiskey, you're having your cigar. But it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different when it's you have no food supply chain. The economy's destroyed. No more grocery stores.
Here's the thing you were asking, though. You're asking us, how am I going to take over? It's very simple. The biggest, most successful community is going to have the most influence. Yeah. Because eventually these people are going to start trading with one another. Because other people are going to get the same idea. Especially after listening to this podcast. If they actually listen to it, they might start getting the same idea.
Dude, there's already a lot of people, I think, that are thinking like this. So we're not alone in this idea, yeah?
Yes. So the biggest community that's the most stable, that is also the coolest, that everybody respects, is going to eventually have enough command where they can say, hey, let's consolidate and become one nation that's more powerful for security, for trade routes. And then eventually this keeps happening over and over again. But the biggest community still remains in control. Who wants to be in the biggest community? Me. And I want to be in charge of it. I want to be the leader. And at that point, what that allows me to do is essentially start to make an empire. Because I think that the U.S. government is going to fail whenever they try to take over, whenever they cause a civil war. I think that's whenever they finally fail. They bite off more than they can chew. And they screw up. And they lose. That's what I think is going to happen because they are too reliant on the military. The military is not going to be willing to shoot on their own people, at least not all of them. And that goes for the police as well. Wow. There's going to be good people in the police and the military who are going to fight back against the government.
And your title would be the Kaiser.
Yes, my title would be the Kaiser, the Emperor, because my aesthetic would be based off of the German Empire. Now, I wouldn't do
Wow.
everything the exact same way that they
That
did.
sounds like a really
To be
marvelous
king,
plan, man. I gotta say, like, I'm really impressed, and I believe in it.
yeah,
I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. I think a lot of people dream too small. I think a lot of people think too small. I think that's a part of the problem today. It's like they don't realize what people are capable of. You know,
no one has any manly ambitions
no
anymore.
one has any manway ambitions. Like they really don't.
They don't have imagination. They don't have like dreams anymore. No one dreams anymore.
No,
Nobody
they don't.
has goals to aspire to.
Why do you have to
Nobody
dream?
has.
Why do you have to dream when like look at the video games that come out now? You don't get a dream anymore. That like the level of mundanity and worldliness in like our media nowadays is enough. Like we're just addicted. Like and I'm addicted as well. I like it. I personally advocate for the addiction. I think it's better to be more connected on Twitter, and albeit Twitter is not as bad as Instagram because it's word based. But you know what, man? I gotta say, like, I'm really impressed with your platform. I will hail Kaiser. Like I'm totally for the Empire. Like I'm basically already a member of the Empire. If the Empire is established first on the heart and souls of man, then consider the Empire of Kaiser established in my heart. You know, and I believe in the future. I believe in the future is bright. You know, despite all. You know, the one thing that will always stay the same is change. And you know what? Change and progress and growth are synonymous, I think. And even if one thing falls, another will rise. And that's kind of just another constant. And I think you're right, man. You know, you look, folks, down the road, you might find yourself trading or as a member or commemorating with the people of Kaiser Maxwell's realm, and he will essentially reestablish the German Empire. And I want to thank you for coming on the time tonight to spread your message, to be a part of the Gist with Josh, episode number 34, and you know. And we could get a little taste of what the young gents out there are doing, the young kings, and we can get a bit of a sneak peek at what's to come for yourself.
I just wanted to thank you for having me on, and thank you for tuning in. If you made it to the end of the episode, and I recommend that you share it with your friends. And if you think that I am a based schizo, you are free to follow me on Twitter. I go under the name Kaiser Maxwell on Twitter, and my @ is Maxwellian2001. I will see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. This was so much fun. You know what? We'll have to have you on the show again sometime, maybe further down the line once civilization's more collapsed and you're more on your way towards having your kingdom.
Yeah, I'd love to do that for sure. Sooner than then, if you want. I can talk about anything you want. I can talk about goofy stuff too that's less serious. Whatever you want.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this tonight. I think this is a good point to wrap up, but I had a lot of fun. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to follow this gentleman on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle again?
It is Maxwellian2001 is the @ and I go by Kaiser Maxwell. It is in the traditional Gothic font, and it has the Iron Cross on either side.
And
so that's me.
I'm the Just with Josh on Twitter. To be honest, it's more like YouTube doesn't go to Twitter. It's more like the other way around. But anyways, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time given tonight. I hope you guys had an entertaining. I hope this was informative. I hope you are ready. I hope you're ready to bow down. I hope you fucking, you peasants who aren't thinking of these things, I hope you're dreaming a little bit bigger because now you have a bit of an idea what the kids are up to. All right. So thank you so much. This has been a lovely episode of The Just with Josh, and I want to wish everyone a lovely evening. Good night.